we are going to discuss about the topic of collaboration between the private sector and the public sector for sustainable city development. My name is Smadar Itzkovich. I am the CEO and the founder of Israel Living Lab. Israel Living Lab is an NGO recognized by Israel Innovation Authority for tech consortium in the field of mobility challenges. I worked with both sectors, many years in the high-tech company, many years in Ashdod municipality, and in the both sectors, the key for success was on the hand of collaboration with the other side, without being frustrated and still bringing a value to our mission. And we are speaking of collaboration. It's not only a business relationship, it's also about value creation. Our consortium in Israel Living Lab, composed of more than 60 companies and governmental authorities, working together in order to provide an holistic solution for the public arena. I think many people in this audience want to hear from industry leader how they did it, when they success and when less success. And I think this is the purpose of our panel. So I'm be honored to introduce you and maybe let you introduce yourself and your organization.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Joost Ochtjens, or Joseph, officially in my passport. I work for Lux Innovation, that is innovation in Luxembourg, so it's the National Innovation Agency. We are financed by the Ministry of Economy in Luxembourg, so it means that we have an important role in developing the economy in Luxembourg, and that is not the finance part of the economy, but the part of the economy that relates to innovation, research and development. We work with a team of specialists for different sectors, different technologies in Luxembourg, with Luxembourg-based companies to develop this tech-related part of the economy in Luxembourg. In addition to that, we have a team of people in international business development, and that is where I belong to. We are working a lot with our foreign trade and investment offices, also here in Tel Aviv. And we are trying to see what kind of companies we could attract, technology companies could attract to Luxembourg. People might think Luxembourg, you know, it's a country of banking and insurances and financial services and very interesting in terms of taxation, and that is not untrue. But most of the companies coming to Luxembourg, they come to Luxembourg for the business. And not so much for the Luxembourg business, but more for the European business. So we are a little bit squeezed in between Germany and France. We connect well to the rest of the Benelux. We are the Lux of Benelux. So we connect well with the countries around us. We understand the cultures. We speak the languages. And from our place, it's fantastic to develop the business in Europe. And of course, mobility business. We talk about living labs, etc. But that is probably going to be the next step.
Hi. So some of you may have been expecting Catherine Snorrison. Unfortunately, she was not feeling well today and couldn't make it. So I'm Janine Ward. I am a program manager with the Michigan Office of Future Mobility and Electrification. So we're a pretty unique state office. We actually coordinate between several different state agencies to essentially make it easy for mobility and electrification projects to deploy and test in Michigan, with hopes that there's relocation, that there's growth of your company, and as you scale, you're thinking about Michigan and how we can support you. We have 97 of the top 100 suppliers in our state, as well as several OEMs, and a great automotive history, and we're very proud of that. So we want to make sure that we keep bringing mobility leaders to our space and showing them how they can thrive in Michigan.
Brandon Branham, serve as Executive Director for Curiosity Lab, which is a City of Peachtree Corners economic development initiative to take use of public infrastructure to support emerging technologies in the public space. We are just 20 minutes from downtown Atlanta, because I'm pretty sure not a lot of people know where Peachtree Corners is, but saw an opportunity to work with the private sector to do what only public sector can do, is operate, maintain, regulate public infrastructure. So why not make this available for companies? And I'll have a little fun with our Michigan partners. Georgia is the leading state for business 9 years in a row.
Well, I'm the lonely private sector here on the panel. I'm Afif Afifi. I'm the CEO of Afifi Group. It's a family business. I'm fourth generation. We are in public transportation mainly, and also other fields, tourism, but also the automotive industry, importing buses, spare parts, and service centers, and also investment. And this investment took us also to investing in the other side of the ecosystem, which is the innovation, and that's how we entered, and now we are partners in many accelerators, VCs, and hubs. We operate in Israel and in Portugal, public transportation, tourism in Holland to Israel, and the automotive in Israel and Turkey, and tourism also in Hong Kong. So we are worldwide, and we are expert in not just providing a service, but doing that through a well-coordinated and strong partnership with the public sector.
Thank you all for being here. So I will maybe start to quote Professor Mariana Mazzucato from University College of London, a very famous economist, and she said that the role of the public sector is to define the direction or the mission, and then set the time frame of implementation for the private sector. So the example I always give is the President Kennedy's vision when he reached his vision of reaching the moon. So first of all, he defined the direction, the moon, reaching the moon, and set a time frame of a decade to do it by providing incentives. And it's like was a revolution in that time. It gave birth of an entire space, a new space industry, and inspired NASA, of course, to come up with innovative technologies, some of which we are still using today and present in our watches and in our phones. So I think it's a good questions to ask and to discuss you all about the public sector's significant role in encouraging and fostering innovative solutions for real challenges, especially in the domain of smart mobility. So taking this idea, could you please give us a specific example of success story of how you manage to influence the private sector to develop a solution for your city, state, or, of course, country? If you are able, please speak about a little bit about the process, who were the stakeholders, and the results achieved. So we start with Luxembourg.
Yes, in Luxembourg, my example would be a project we started in, I think it was end of 2019, early 2020, with a company called CFL, which is the national railway company in Luxembourg. So it's like Deutsche Bahn in Germany or SNCF in France. And that company approached us because they wanted to set up a project experimenting with autonomous driving vehicles, so these little shuttles, and operate those shuttles on normal lines, normal bus lines in the city center. They were not familiar with the technology, and they were not familiar with the risks. And they also asked us to advise about the companies around the world, literally, that could do that specific job. They were familiar with two companies in France that were active in that space, Navia and EasyMile. They had no clue what was available in the world outside Europe. So that was one of the reasons approaching us. So we started with making a long list. We went from a long list to a short list. Unfortunately, 2020 and 21 were difficult years to travel, to see what those suppliers were doing in demo projects around the world. I mean, the world was very small in 2020 and 21, so we stayed in Europe. So the project was delayed a little bit. But in 2022, CFL took a final decision to source the vehicles and bring those vehicles in a demo project delivered by a company called Omayo. And that company is from New Zealand. So we, I mean, it's not just very east, but it is down under and east. So from our point, I mean, in Luxembourg, in Europe, there's almost no place in the world further away. But we were all convinced of the technology, maybe because they're so far away, and most of the demonstration projects they did were rolled out in Korea. So they were very close with the Korean Institute for Transportation, or Transportation Institute, KOTI. And so their proven technology came actually from Korea. That is where they showed what they could do. And we brought the technology, the company and the technology to Europe. The company now is established in Luxembourg. They have the headquarters in Luxembourg. The vehicles are delivered. We are going to deploy the service now. So we are going, in the first phase, we are going to operate these vehicles on a closed site. But in the second and the third phase of the project, these vehicles will be run on public roads. This is not the first project with autonomous vehicles in Luxembourg on public roads. There have been projects before. Not all those projects with a big success. There are risks, there are complications, but it is how you work. You know, you go step by step. We learn from the companies. That is, you know, public-private collaboration. We learn from the companies learn from the use case. The companies cannot develop further when there is no use case. So sooner or later, you need to bring these kind of vehicles on the road and the technology on the road. And I think it's a good example. Let's see how we further move. So if people are interested, follow the company Omayo or Luxembourg, autonomous driving. There will be some posting this year and next year. And yeah, let's see how successful this project will be at the end.
Yeah, one great example out of downtown Detroit, Michigan is our Detroit Smart Parking Lab, which is a public-private partnership between the state of Michigan, Bosch, which is a leading technology provider, Ford Motor Company, and then Bedrock Detroit, which is one of the largest real estate developers in Detroit, Michigan. So we came together to develop this smart parking lab to really demonstrate different technologies side by side as they relate to parking. So not only charging infrastructure, but also payment systems, wallet systems, an automated valet parking system, as well as several others that can really integrate with each other so that they're learning from each other, but then we're also learning what the industry needs to support these different systems and how we can tap into real estate developers to leverage these unused assets oftentimes in the city to make them tech hubs. And then in addition to that, we, as the state, we don't want to dictate to industry, we want to collaborate with industry. So we developed what's called the My Future Mobility Plan, and that was a state strategy, a statewide strategy focused on all of our mobility goals looking forward, and that was developed with state agencies, but then also public and private sector stakeholders, automakers, suppliers, startups, academia. We had a lot of different people weighing in because we wanted to make sure we were taking a whole of Michigan approach to developing this plan and this strategy, so we're representing the entire industry and the entire state of Michigan.
It's a good example because you encouraged not only collaboration between a private company, between different companies, different technology, integration of an holistic solution, and this is, I think, a very innovative perspective to the future. This is how we do. It's not only one technology can solve a mission or a problem, so you encourage them to work together. Exactly. I think it's a good example.
Well, and with that example, again, just if I could have one more second, but the cameras, for instance, on that automated the automated valet parking system, those could be tapped into by a startup via open API so that they could leverage those for maybe their payment system as they scan a license plate. So really working side by side to make sure those technologies can work together and finding ways for them to work together so that they're more successful long term.
It's innovation for collaboration, and it's good to invite startups to join to working with you and with maybe big companies, and this is, I think, one of the key to succeed.
I think it's a great example and similar to what we've been able to do as well. A lot of times, right, we think about mobility, we think about the car, the autonomous vehicle, but what about the people crossing the sidewalk, the streets? So we saw an opportunity, and it took that public interaction to do that. And so we worked with Bosch as well, so sharing that partner.
Shout out to Bosch.
Go Bosch. MH Corbin, which is a mobile edge compute device, and Comsignia, which creates the roadside unit for connected vehicles. And so we're able to take those analytics from the camera, detect when there's a pedestrian in a crosswalk, convert that to a connected vehicle message, broadcast that out to a car that's 200 yards away. So you know coming into that intersection what's happening before you even have eyes on it. As we think about safety, it does take the collaboration of all of us to really pull this off, because not one company or not one city or agency can do that. It takes all of us to be able to really protect drivers and residents.
So it's also a great example of one mission, but different kinds of technologies, sensors, camera, application, all came to solve one solution. Thank you. And Aviv is the representative of the private sector. So how you see as the eyes of private sector, the public sector?
Allow me to give two examples then, if I'm the only one. One of them is in Israel. It was the innovation approach of giving grant for autonomous buses in Israel, in public roads, and in also closed areas. And thank God we have in our group the operator. We are public transport operator, and also we are one of the main shareholders, and I'm the chairman of a autonomous company technology called Imagery. And we combined those two solutions, and we submitted, and we won the closed area, which is in Sheba, and we're already operating the first autonomous bus in Israel. And the second one we won, and it's going to be operated in July this year in the northern area in a public road as one of the public transport lines in Israel. That's an innovation that combines the public sector, the ministry, and the innovation office on giving a better service and solving some problems for the people, which is worldwide, the driver's problem. And this case is a good case study, because this is an area that can be implemented and supported by the public sector for the private area. And also the startups. It gives them a faster route to prove and implement and see it's feasible. You don't need to get to a wider and a vast number of opportunities in order to show that it's possible. So that was the first one. The second one was years ago, and it has to do with the public, not technology, not autonomous. Ministry of Transportation wanted to give solution for rural areas for public transportation. And today we are operating for a lot of years, and we are the only one until today, a successful one, to be honest, which is on-call services in public transportation. They issued a demand, and we applied for it in the area we used to operate. And we developed our solution, a software management system that communicates with the municipality, the local municipality, for the people to ask and demand the service, and then we will provide them through the public fleet, the public transport fleet that we use for the area around. And that's working well until today, and everyone is getting what they need. And the value proposition here with the cost structure, it was win-win for everyone, for the Ministry of Transportation and the people, and it wasn't, they shouldn't have paid more to go from home to work and to everything else they need. They could use public transport, but the on-demand one, And for us, we are there and we could provide them, and it was a good combination, and we developed this service and this technology, and it's working for many years today.
So in your case, your first example is it's not only collaboration between the technology companies, it's also between the public authorities. You work with Sheba, it's a public hospital, with governmental authority and with the Ministry of Transportation. So 6 stakeholders that working together and doing such an R&D together to the benefit of both sides, I think. It's a good example. So I will switch to the next questions. You mentioned, Joseph, that Luxembourg want to attract startups, entrepreneurs to bring innovation and technology. So the question is, what the public sector contribute to startups or established companies? What does the public sector need to provide in order to influence the private's priorities? Is it only grants, data, sandbox, or something entirely different?
Yes, I think grants will help. In our organization, we also have an expert team on national R&D subvention and European. So 2 different teams. One is looking at European opportunities, the other one at the national opportunities. So it always helps, but I don't think that it will be a game changer. I think that what I think and what I also hope for, so it's a little bit wishful thinking, is that more public entities offer living lab opportunities. So create a living lab and start with explaining to the market, to the private sector, what your main challenges are, what your operational challenges are, from a pure functional point of view. So, okay, my daily life is like this, and we're struggling with that, and see how you can adopt innovation, and you can bring innovation into your system. When I look around here on EcoMotion, you go from booth to booth, and the next one is more interesting than the previous one, and the next one comes and wow, this is. So you see what the market is offering, and I always wonder why so little of that is seen back in our public transportation systems, in our road networks, in the technology, so in the ITS we see around roads. So how little innovation that is obviously available, it's all around, is embedded in what we see in the public space. And the public space is huge, because with the exception of the cars we are driving, our cars, the rest is public. The roads are public, the train lines are public, the services are public, so everything is public. So why is there so little innovation in the public sectors? And I think the key word here, the solution for that is Living Lab, and also a bit, the risk that public authorities or public organizations need to take to open their organization for a kind of living lab, and say, okay, let's trial, let's see how we can solve this issue, or we fail. But that is innovation.
I agree totally. With the living lab. So in one hand, the public holds the infrastructure, and the other hand, the private hold the data and technology, and we have to be a bridge between both of them. And living lab, I accept totally. It's a good way. Thank you. But one action the public sector can do is to declare, it's maybe not mission, but what our challenges, what we want to do. To declare, it's one way to attract, I think, startups and companies to come to your city and trying to run their solutions.
On that note, we have declared we want people coming to Detroit to succeed, to innovate, to make things happen. So in addition to everything happening on the state level, we've also got great partners in the city of Detroit, Michigan Central and New Lab being some of them in the room here today with us, but also the city of Detroit who created what's a roughly 2 square mile area in the city of Detroit that has an expedited permitting process for transportation and mobility projects. So it's called the Transportation Innovation Zone, and where it traditionally might have taken 6 months to get a permit to deploy, they've expedited that process within that area so that they can ensure that we can have successful projects on the ground as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. And we're also just building out an ecosystem in that space so that it's a full innovation district. As we work alongside each other, we've got several test sites, the Smart Parking Lab I mentioned earlier, but we've got 9 throughout the state that all focus on different areas of the industry so that we can be there every step of the way to make sure that companies are able to succeed. So we've got policy support, we've got grant funding, we've got all of these different partnerships and collaborations. And then we're also here to make introductions to make sure that you know the right people in the state to work with to make sure that you're successful in our state.
Obviously, we're a believer in living labs because that's what we do every day. I think we're about to get cut short. But it's about the entire ecosystem, not just the living lab, right? You have to have those policymakers there in the room. You have to have the VC side. Startups need funding, but you need that support from all areas. So working with the federal government, we have FAA, we have NHTSA, USDOT, all involved in our site that's going on. And then the local policy and regulations that go behind it. And then corporate innovation, bringing all those together with the startups in a single place. I think that's how we breed innovation within local government.
Well, I agree with everyone here. As a private sector, what really is appealing for us is to find not just the grant, but the whole ecosystem around it, to make it easier for us, because many projects die after winning the grant. In the process, in the bureaucracy, in everything, the process is too hard, too long, and then it's not applicable to implement later on. So, so I do agree with that, and I'm telling you, as a private sector, this is what we need, and this is what will bring all of us, because we are looking for innovation and we're looking for improvement as a private sector. So definitely, what all you have is something appealing for everyone.
Thank you all for being here. We don't have time for the third questions that we prepare, but thank you. At the end of the day, we can really accelerate innovation and sustainable by collaboration in a win-win situation. It's so good.
Optimism
So thank you and good
patience.
luck and patience. And thank you and good luck for your missions.